The drama surrounding Shadur Sanders has grown into something far bigger than just one young quarterback trying to find his footing in the NFL. What should have been a story of growth, development, and opportunity has instead been twisted into an indictment of an entire system that seems rigged against him from the start. And this time, it's not just fans noticing, it's legends of the game like Tom Brady, outspoken commentators like Stephen A. Smith, and respected analysts like Lewis Riddick who are calling out the failures of the coaching staff and the organizational structure around him. Tom Brady, known as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, didn't mince words. He raised a damning question about the NFL. Why are players constantly graded, ranked, and scrutinized, while the coaches tasked with developing them face little to no accountability? Brady pointed out that while players like Sanders are evaluated every single week by outlets like Pro Football Focus, coaches who often lack the knowledge or ability to mold a quarterback somehow escape this same level of judgment. In Brady's eyes, the league has it backward. Players are measured to the finest detail, yet coaches, many of whom he compared to PE teachers elevated to positions of power, aren't judged on their ability to develop talent. Brady's criticism cut even deeper when it came to Sanders himself. He accused certain coaches of claiming Sanders wasn't on the same level as players like Dillon or Flacco, but then asked the real question, did they ever give Sanders the chance to prove himself? Did they put him with the first team, give him live reps, or support him in learning the system? The answer, as Brady suggested, was a resounding no. And if those opportunities weren't provided, Brady argued, then these coaches had no right to question his ability. For him, it wasn't just about Sanders' talent. It was about the environment, or lack thereof, created around him. Stephen A. Smith took the criticism a step further. As Sanders prepared for his first preseason start, Stephen A. made a bold claim. The young quarterback was being set up to fail. 11 practices had gone by, and Sanders hadn't taken a single rep with the first-team offense. He had been buried on the depth chart, working almost exclusively against third-string units. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, he was thrust into the starting lineup. Stephen A. didn't see this as an opportunity, he saw it as a trap. How could anyone reasonably expect Sanders to succeed without ever having built chemistry with the starters? To him, this wasn't bad luck. It was by design. Lewis Riddick added even more fuel to the fire. His frustration wasn't with Sanders' ability, but with the environment surrounding him. Riddick pointed out that players drafted late or picked up in precarious circumstances rarely make it to the first team unless someone within the organization is advocating for them. In Sanders' case, that advocate was nowhere to be found. Nobody seemed to be fighting for him. Nobody was ensuring he got the reps he needed, and worst of all, it wasn't even clear who in the organization had truly wanted to bring him on board in the first place. That uncertainty alone, Riddick argued, doomed Sanders from the beginning. This lack of advocacy was only made worse by comments from Jimmy Haslam. The Browns owner openly admitted that he hadn't been involved in the decision to sign Sanders, leaving it entirely up to the coaching staff. On its surface, this might sound like trust in his football people, but in reality, it exposed a glaring problem. The organization had no unified plan for Sanders' development. Haslam's hands-off approach meant the coaches, already disorganized and unwilling to commit, had free rein to marginalize Sanders. And as Stephen A. Smith pointed out in response, Haslam's words weren't just casual, they were calculated. In his view, Haslam and others in power never wanted Sanders to succeed. They weren't simply indifferent. They were actively ensuring he didn't get the chance. The picture this paints is bleak. A talented quarterback finds himself at the mercy of a system more interested in protecting its power structure than fostering talent. Sanders, once a promising name, has been caught in the crossfire of politics, incompetence, and manipulation. The coaches preach development but deny him reps. The executives talk about opportunities but refuse to align behind him. And when he struggles under these impossible circumstances, they point the finger back at him, labeling him unprepared or not good enough. This cycle is as cruel as it is common. As Brady, Stephen A., and Riddick all highlighted, it's not enough for a player to simply have talent. They need the right environment. They need coaches who know how to teach, reps with the first team, advocates in the front office, and a plan for their future. Without those pieces, even the most gifted player will stumble. Sanders' situation is proof of that. The system didn't just fail him, it set him up to be a scapegoat, and it's not just about Sanders. His story reflects a much larger issue across the NFL. How many players have been dismissed as busts not because they lacked talent, but because the system around them never gave them a fair chance? How many careers have been wasted because organizations failed to align behind their development? Brady's comments about unqualified coaches, Stephen A's outrage at a manufactured failure, and Riddick's demand for accountability all point to one undeniable truth. The NFL has a systemic problem when it comes to nurturing its young quarterbacks. The tragedy here is that Sanders is exactly the kind of player fans want to root for. His journey, marked by resilience and determination, has captured the imagination of many. He embodies the underdog story that fans love. Yet instead of being celebrated and supported, he's been sidelined, undercut, and undermined. And now, as the pressure mounts and narratives swirl, it's Sanders who is being judged, not the system that stacked the deck against him. If the NFL truly wants to grow its future stars, it needs to face the uncomfortable truth that Brady, Stephen A, and Riddick have laid bare. Coaches must be held accountable, not just for wins and losses, but for their ability or inability to develop talent. Executives must align behind their players, not shrug their shoulders and pass responsibility. And most importantly, players like Shadur Sanders must be given real opportunities, not token appearances designed to prove a point. Until then, stories like Sanders will keep repeating. Talented players will be set up to fail, fans will be left frustrated, and the league will continue to waste potential. Sanders' saga is a cautionary tale, but it's also a call to action. If the NFL doesn't change, it risks losing more than just games. It risks losing the very players who could define its future. So the question lingers. Can any young quarterback truly succeed when the system around them isn't built to support their growth? Is it fair to demand greatness from players while excusing mediocrity from those tasked with guiding them? Or should the NFL finally hold its coaches and executives to the same standard of scrutiny it demands from its athletes? The story of Shadur Sanders is far from over, but one thing is certain. It's not just about him anymore. It's about the system, the power structures, and the accountability that has been missing for far too long. And until that changes, the league will keep producing more stories like this one. Tales of wasted potential, missed opportunities, and players who never got the chance they truly deserved. What do you think? Is Shadur Sanders being unfairly set up for failure, or should the responsibility still fall squarely on his shoulders? Should coaches be ranked, graded, and held to the same standard as the players they manage? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories shaking the sports world.